Welcome to Shad's Guitar Show. Whether it's the gear or the players who made the gear famous, join me each episode as we discuss all things guitar. Well, hello friends, and welcome to Shad's Guitar Show. That, of course, is a ripoff of the great Ask Zach program. He always says, well, hello friends, to start his episodes off. And I was just watching one of his episodes, so it was stuck in my mind. And I thought I would try it, but knowing that it's kind of his thing, it doesn't really make sense. So welcome into another exciting episode of Shad's Guitar Show. And speaking of YouTube influencers that I really like, 5 Watt World and Keith Williams, that's one of my favorite channels. And a lot of the reason is because he does these really cool short histories of different guitars and amplifiers and even pedals. And it's really cool, and it's sort of what I've modeled a lot of what I've been doing lately after, just because I love the format so much. So thanks to Keith Williams for those great short histories that he does. And if you're not familiar with 5 Watt World channel on YouTube, you definitely should check it out. And to rewind just a tad, you should also check out Ask Zach, another great channel, and support those guys, as well as making sure to swing by Shad's Guitar Show on YouTube and subscribe and check out my content there as well. But moving forward with this episode, we're going to be diving into the history of a guitar that I've gotten really excited about lately, and you'll understand why shortly. But without further ado, let's jump into the history of the first Gretsch Duo Jets. So it's no secret to anyone who knows me, and probably becoming obvious to you if you've been listening to the show for a while, that I get a bit obsessed with things that I'm interested in. Be it gear, bands, music genres, I just can't help myself. But it's comforting to know, or at least tell myself, that likely a lot of you are the same way. Okay, so that's me setting up this episode, which is a continuation of my slide into a current Gretsch obsession. It started a few weeks back with the 6120 episode, coinciding with my having purchased a new 6120 Brian Setzer Smoke model. And let me tell you, that's one impressive guitar. As is the norm, my guitar brand obsession generally leads to revisiting old favorites or discovering new artists who are representative of that brand, and in particular, the model. And I've always had a cursory knowledge of Gene Vincent and the Blue Caps, and in particular, Cliff Gallup, the guitar player. I know the stuff many of you do, Bebop-A-Lula, Blue Jean Bop, but I've never done a deep dive. Well, until now, that is. As you may know, Cliff Gallup was a Gretsch Duo Jet player. He famously played a 1954 G6128T on all of those great Gene Vincent albums from the mid-50s. I've had a bunch of Duo Jets and Sparkle Jets over the years, but never a proper Dynasonic-equipped vintage reissue like the G6128T, Cliff Gallup's signature Duo Jet. Well, unfortunately, I still don't, since they are very hard to find and really pricey. So I settled on the G6128-53 Vintage Select, which is basically the same guitar in all the most important aspects. So all of that backstory just to tell you what you already know. We're going to talk about the Gretsch Duo Jet. So let's get to it. Introduced in 1953, the Duo Jet had a cool name, Duo for its 2 Dynasonic pickups, and Jet, which reflected the most advanced aircraft technology of the day, to go along with its understated, elegant looks. The 6128 Duo Jet superficially resembled the Les Paul in terms of the body contour and features like dual pickups, large fretboard inlays, and a similar scale length. But in reality, there were key fundamental differences. Most notably, the body of the Duo Jet was and is chambered, which not only reduces its weight, but contributes to its sonic signature. Chambering significantly defines the Gretsch Duo Jet sound, transforming what appears to be a solid body guitar into an instrument with semi-hollow tonal characteristics. This construction method introduces internal air pockets that allow the wood to vibrate more freely, resulting in a warmer, woodier, and more resonant tone compared to a true solid-body guitar. Its pickups were the same single-coil D'Armand Dynasonics the company used in its electric archtop models. Key details of the 1953 Duo Jet neck include a 24.6-inch scale length, rosewood fretboard, 22 small, narrow vintage-style frets, and a 1 11/16-inch nut width. These necks are generally recognized for a substantial, comfortable, and often thick feel compared to the later, thinner profiles. The Duo Jet's elegant black finish was no less distinctive than the metallic gold on the Les Paul. In fact, the Duo Jet's black chrome white aesthetic was so appealing one could speculate that Gibson's 1954 Les Paul Custom, aka the Black Beauty, was possibly in some way inspired by it. Interestingly, the black top on many of the early Duo Jets was made of nitron, which is a plastic used to cover drums. A handful of script logo Duo Jets from the first batch have been documented to have a Gretsch drum badge affixed to the armrest area of their lower bout. It remains unclear why only a few were granted this unique ornamentation, but many Gretsch aficionados consider a 53 with this rare feature to be the ultimate find. The first batch of Duo Jets consisted of 150 guitars, comprised of serial numbers 11900 through 12049. Several specimens have been documented with potentiometer date codes from the 33rd week of 1953, which fell in early August, and that suggests that these first guitars were manufactured starting in late August or early September. A unique identifying feature of the first guitars is the script logo inlaid into the headstocks. This style of Gretsch logo, along with the lack of a marker at the first fret, are carryovers from the design aesthetic of the synchromatic acoustic archtops Gretsch made from 1939 through the late 40s. This first group of Duo Jets is the only full batch of solid-body guitars to possess the script-style headstock logo, resulting in their modern-day reference as Scripty Jets. The Scripty Jet guitars were the first Gretsch electrics to benefit from a truss rod adjuster at the headstock, with previous Gretsch models having the adjuster at the heel of the neck like on a Fender. Another innovation, originally applied to some early 50s electromatic archtops, was the Melita Synchrosonic Adjustable Bridge, which was touted for its ability to intonate individual strings to a finer degree than other bridges. Many of the initial 150 guitar batch had a fixed Melita bridge, while later examples possessed the more common floating Melita bridge, which, like all floating bridges, is held in place by string tension instead of being anchored to the top. Much like the D'Armand Dynasonic pickups, the Melita bridge was not produced by Gretsch, but actually made by Sebastiano Johnny Melita. Just as they had been eager to move production of the pickups in-house and under Gretsch control, the same could be said regarding the Melita bridge. So we see them phase it out in 1957 as the new Gretsch-designed rocking bar bridge becomes the standard and would remain so until 1959, when the new Space Control bridge would take over. The next batch of Duo Jets in 1954 produced another 150 guitars. The Gretsch factory typically began production of the next model year guitars at the end of the previous calendar year, much as auto manufacturers do today. So it's more accurate to track the year of a Gretsch based on its features rather than its actual date of production. The feature changes that define the 54 model year for the Duo Jet include a new T-roof style Gretsch logo on the headstock, the one we primarily see to this day, and a block marker at the first fret. These aesthetic adjustments make it very easy to differentiate between otherwise identical 1953 and 54 Duo Jets. So the Duo Jet's initial early commercial success established Gretsch as a serious player in the solid body market of the 50s, alongside Fender and Gibson. The next and most substantial Duo Jet transformation from the 50s era was from the single-coil D'Armand Dynasonic pickups to the hum-canceling Filtertron pickups, starting in late 1957, with the Filtertron becoming the standard for the model by 1959. Developed by inventor Ray Butts in collaboration with Chet Atkins, the Filtertron was designed specifically to filter out electronic hum, while maintaining a bright, twangy high-end response, which differs from the more mid-focus sound of many humbuckers. If you haven't already, check out my recent episode on Ray Butts and the Filtertron to learn all about its history and construction. And of course, we can't talk about the Duo Jet, or really Gretsch guitars in general, and not mention the Bigsby vibrato tailpiece. Courtesy of the legendary Paul Bigsby in the early 1950s, this innovative vibrato was the blueprint and is the origin for the high-tech vibratos, often incorrectly referred to as tremolos, and check out my episode on tremolo versus vibrato if you haven't already. That would come decades later, in the form of units like the Floyd Rose and Kahler systems. And while not every Duo Jet is equipped with this iconic option, it's certainly safe to call it a major enduring feature of the Duo Jet's sound and style. I think most of us associate Gretsch and Bigsby very closely. While other manufacturers, notably Gibson and Fender, have used Bigsby vibratos on some models, they're not nearly as connected to Bigsby as Gretsch is in the minds of most of us. From the original blueprints through 1954, the Duo Jet saw a number of interesting stylistic changes. The early blank control knobs started coming imprinted with the now classic G arrow engraving, and the model would also gain a block inlay at the first fret. After briefly morphing into a unique hump block form, the fret markers on all Duo Jets ultimately became the neoclassical thumbnail inlays that we see today. In addition to these changes, Gretsch would also offer some interesting variations of the Duo Jet design. In 1954, Gretsch took a chance on the Sparkle Jet. The Sparkle was not paint, but rather a thick sheet of plastic material Gretsch used to wrap 1950s drum sets. It was a gleaming model that glittered in a silvery metallic like something out of a sci-fi comic book, and surely like nothing the musical world had seen before on a guitar. Gretsch also capitalized on the success of the Chet Atkins 6120 models by producing the ultra-cowboy kitschy Chet Atkins 6130 Roundup. It sported a prominent G branded into the lower bout of the knotty pine top, had block fingerboard markers with pantographed cow and cactus inlays, an orangish-brown finish, a steer's head inlaid into the headstock, tortoiseshell pickguard with steer's head engraved, a belt buckle-shaped tailpiece with a chuck wagon campfire scene, and a western tooled brown leather edge trim that was secured by upholstery tacks that were used as far back as the 1930s by Gretsch to secure the round drum emblem to certain drums. Bold statements like the Sparkle Jet and the 6130 Roundup models made it clear that Gretsch was not afraid to color outside the lines. And some of Gretsch's other, more subtle efforts boasted classy but humble colors like the famous Cadillac Green and Oriental Red Jet Firebird, the latter sported early on by the great Bo Diddley. Many guitar greats have owned and played Duo Jets over the years, but the guitar's comparative rarity in the spotlight has meant that a much smaller number of musicians are closely associated with the model. Rockabilly artists like Cliff Gallup, who got us started with this episode, Bo Diddley, and Hank Garland favored the Duo Jet in its early stages and served as its initial ambassadors to the world. Following them, British invasion poster children like George Harrison and Pete Townsend were also known to tour and record with them. You can hear George's Duo Jet all over the early Beatles recordings, while Pete's Jet found itself in heavy use on the Who's Quadrophenia tour. Other classic rock legends such as Peter Frampton, Steve Marriott of Humble Pie, Malcolm Young, and David Gilmour have recorded and toured with the Duo Jet as well. Thanks to the post-Baldwin era 1990s resurgence of the Gretsch brand, the Duo Jet made its way into the hands of quite a few artists of that era, including Chris Cornell, Paul Arthurs of Oasis, Brian Baker of Bad Religion, and Nick McCabe of The Verb, to name a few. Since then, the pattern has only repeated throughout the 21st century, as new guitarists from a myriad of musical categories started discovering and playing the Duo Jet. Some notable examples of modern jet players include Jason Isbell, Jack White, Chris Collingwood of Fountains of Wayne, Nick 13 of Tiger Army, Chris Chaney of The Living End, and Alex Trimble of Two Door Cinema Club. While the Duo Jet doesn't garner nearly the same appeal as other guitars originating in the 50s, like the Les Paul, Strat, Telecaster, or even their own 6120 Gretsch models, it definitely has a following and an awesome legacy that makes it a guitar that everyone should explore. As we've discussed in episodes previous, there are a rare few guitars that have a truly unique sound, and I would definitely put the Duo Jet in that category. That great Gretsch sound, as the Gretsch slogan touts, is alive and well in these awesome guitars. And of course, being in the honeymoon stage of owning my 53 Vintage Select Duo Jet, of course I'm going to tell you that you should really check them out. But it's true, and over the years I've owned a bunch of them, and they're always great, and it is certainly a guitar that, if you haven't tried, you really need to. Oh, and those couple of musical interludes you heard interspersed in this episode, you guessed it, those were recorded with my 53 Vintage Select Duo Jet. If you've enjoyed this look at the Gretsch Duo Jet, please share the episode with a guitar-playing friend. And also, please rate the show wherever you're listening. That is so helpful. Head over to YouTube and subscribe to Shad's Guitar Show there, as well as giving me a follow on Instagram. I genuinely appreciate the support and for you coming along for the ride as we discuss all things guitar.